Imagine for an instant that life does not exist. Erase the entire universe, the galaxies, the planets, and all life forms. Imagine there is just nothingness. Nothing to look at. Nothing to taste. Nothing to hear. Nothing at all for our senses to perceive. This is infinite consciousness in its rawest form. Doesn't seem very exciting, does it? This is why we have decided to create. Why have we created all that we experience on the planet? What is the purpose of life? Is this all simply a series of random events? Or is there an ultimate reason as to why we are all here? We are all one consciousness, all equal parts of one unified source. It is of this source that all matter, life, and experience is made. Source, or consciousness, is what some may refer to as God or the Creator. Many physicists refer to it as the unified field of consciousness. Many believe it to be a separate entity altogether. However, this consciousness is not something outside of or greater than us. It simply is us. The truth is, you already know this. Beyond all ideals, perceptions, accepted concepts of our reality and belief systems that we have, there is a fundamental knowing that each one of us holds. That knowing is an understanding of who and what we truly are. The only reason we don't clearly see it and often doubt it is because we have chosen to forget. By forgetting, we are able to engage in the experience fully and see what each has to offer. Let's back up for a moment. We are Source, one consciousness. But what does that actually mean? Who are we? Why are we experiencing what we call life on this planet? To answer this, remember what it felt like to be infinite consciousness? Not that experientially rich, is it? This is why Source, who we truly are, decided to expand itself into individual bits of consciousness. These individual bits of consciousness are all souls. These souls are who we truly are. We are individual facets of a whole, all connected as one, all made from the same thing and all complete potentiality. You may wonder why Source, who is already whole and all-knowing, needed to expand itself into souls if it already knows and is everything. It did so because Source wanted to become experientially rich. By expanding into souls, Source can use its creativity to know itself in an even richer way. Now that we understand who we are, the next big question is, why are we here experiencing life on this planet? The search for this answer is naturally apparent within each of us. It is the big question we have been trying to answer for centuries on this planet. Not that it was ever not known, but it was simply hidden and misguided. The purpose to life is not to plague ourselves with finding the answer, but instead to be on a journey of experiencing, learning, and remembering who we truly are. This simply means that each soul is gaining more and more experiences, and over time and many lives, it remembers more and more who it truly is. In addition to learning and experiencing what we need to as individual souls, each soul designs each of its lives prior to experiencing each one. Everything from our body, to where we will be born on the planet, to who our parents will be, to what type of life we will have. These are all chosen by us. When we look at some of the more intense experiences on the planet, we can ask, why would we choose to experience these things? What were we thinking? To answer simply, we weren't thinking. The mind is what thinks and judges. The soul is neutral. It sees the experience for what it is, just an experience. Remember, the soul is here to become experientially rich, not to define and judge any experience as good or bad.
We can look at some experiences and say, wow, that's really intense. There's no way I would choose to do that. But when you really look at it, where is that thought coming from? Because the soul is neutral with what it sees and experiences. It's the mind, because of the way it's been programmed and conditioned to perceive things, that it judges things, it defines things, it categorizes things. But, in actuality, there's no real truth to this. Because if you were to take away the story of it being good or bad or right or wrong, you're left with the one universal truth, that everything is just an experience. We have to realize that we are not the mind that is defining these things by judging and categorizing and whatnot. We have to realize and remember that we are neutral souls that are creating experiences for ourselves for our own growth.
Now, does this mean that the soul is cold or unloving? Absolutely not. It is only the mind that will push you to define it in this way. The soul, on the other hand, sees each challenge as another opportunity to let go of or further discover who it truly is. We have chosen to create our experiences each and every time we incarnate. To assist in this process, our souls act as a recorder while we experience. Each experience that provides growth is observed and retained by the soul so it can continue its evolution. The recording allows us to create whatever experience we require next based on what we have experienced already. Remember, the soul has come into the body forgetting who it truly is. Why? To enable itself to have these experiences and to be able to do so fully and completely.
And then what we've created is basically ourselves fragmented and become soul fragments, and to come here to create a physicality and to experience ourselves in a physicality, forgetting who we are completely. And in that play of forgetting who we are, then we can actually look at our creation, and when we're playing with it, to us it's almost like we don't know anything about it. Everything is an experience of new. It's like, I use the example sometimes where, here you are, and you're the greatest engineer, and you have this capability to create amazingly in your mind, and you have these abilities. So here we are, this engineer decides it's going to create an amusement park. So it creates this beautiful amusement park, but then it wants to experience what it's like to play in the amusement park. But what better way to experience the amusement park than to forget that you're actually the one that created that amusement park? Because if you're going there knowing that you created it, then you know exactly how it all functions. Not only that, if I had to take the analogy of just the engineer is going to show up at this amusement park, and it's going to look around and say, oh yeah, I created that, I know that. And even if it goes on the ride, it knows where the next curve is and how it's going to dip, and it really understands that. But at the same time, it's also observing how I can adjust it and tweak it and make it different. So the experience is totally different compared to bringing a child to this amusement park, because the child doesn't know anything about it. has never experienced it. Everything is new. So this child shows up and it's like, wow, there's all this stuff to play with. And it's not even aware. So if it gets on the ride, it has no idea what the ride's going to provide. It doesn't know what curve is going to be next and how it's going to feel. And each time it's going to feel a little different. And that whatever it's playing with, it is always expanded because of the fact that it really is. It's like anyone doing something for the first time. And it's just amazing because you've never experienced it before. So everything is much more intense, much more colorful, much more exuberant in a way of experiencing it. So it's completely in that fashion. So here we are, we've created these playgrounds, and this earth being one of them, and we've come here to experience it.
We must also understand that what we experience today has not always been the same. When we initially created the body and planet, the experience was much more harmonious, as we did not have duality and separation like we do today. As you can imagine, the planet and conditions were quite different from today. As time went on and consciousness evolved, we shifted the planet and body to reflect something new. This allows us to experience something different. Today, we are experiencing a reality we chose and agreed to experience, which is full of duality, separation, intensity, and disconnection. Remember, the soul is simply pure consciousness, pure love, and potentiality. It does not judge what we experience. It simply wants to experience everything, as everything has growth in it. Along with expanding into souls and designing experiences for these souls to live out, we as Source also created many playgrounds, or what we call planets, to have these experiences and lives on. Earth, the planet we have our experiences on. Sure, this isn't the only planet where souls are having experiences, but this is where the souls this documentary is intended for are having their experience. Earth is a beautiful and expansive planet that serves as a playground for us to experience our lives upon. Source, who we are, created this playground to fit a certain experience we were choosing to have. What exactly does this mean? It means we created each individual aspect of the planet to be the way it is, because just like we design our experiences, we also design the planet to give us a specific experience. This may bring up the question, what about nature? Nature is not a constant. It is not something that is simply there. We have designed nature to reflect our consciousness, meaning whatever we are choosing to experience collectively will be made available through the planet by reflecting the various conditions to match what we choose to experience. To put it more clearly, the planet is changing as we change, something the scientific community refers to as evolution. Let's look at the planet today. Currently, we are treating our planet in a very destructive manner. We abuse and destroy it through the various toxins and resources we have come to rely upon. Of course, this reliance is not out of necessity. It instead exists simply for economic profit. But let's remember that we have chosen to forget who we truly are, which means we are very disconnected from who we truly are. In turn, we are also very disconnected from the planet. It should therefore come as no surprise that the destruction of our planet is what is playing out as a result. The planet is merely playing out our current level of consciousness. When we look at the animal kingdom, we can see a similar trend. This is because the animals are not on an individual evolutionary process. They too simply reflect our consciousness. This is exemplified now by the animal kingdom being in a very separated state. They even go as far as to consume one another. While it may appear to be the food chain, it's merely reflecting the separation we're playing out in our current level of consciousness. This is today. While in the past we were projecting a different experience, the animals did not consume each other. It's simply because our consciousness was reflecting a different experience. When we look at this, we can quickly realize that if the planet and the animals are a reflection of our conscious state, then there is nothing concrete about how it must be. There is no form the planet must take, and ultimately, we are in control of choosing what we wish to create.